Time now for that morning rush. This morning, a man shot by officers is waking up in the hospital with critical injuries. APD says things escalated when that man fired a gun yesterday afternoon. APD says officers responded to a man threatening to kill his neighbors at an apartment complex near Central in Dallas yesterday. When police arrived, they say the suspect refused to comply with their commands. APD says the man went inside his apartment, grabbed a rifle, then fired off several rounds. Police fired back, shooting him. Police plan to see if the man was under the influence or suffered from mental health issues. Kristen.
Looking at some spotty thunderstorm potential out across southern New Mexico, mainly over the higher terrain. But as you can see, it's pretty low storm crop for today. Tomorrow, different story, though. More moisture out there, western and northern areas. Looking at scattered storms and showers. Albuquerque, that's where our rain chances come in. David?
Today, the former New Mexico state senator convicted of fraud and bribery is expected to plead guilty in a separate case. Phil Griego is already serving a year and a half for bribery and fraud charges. That's for using his Senate seat to push a real estate deal. Now, Griego is also facing charges of perjury and embezzlement related to campaign finance reports that prosecutors say were falsified. We'll let you know what happens.
This morning, we're waiting for a response from Sandoval County after it slapped with a lawsuit. 2 people injured in a crash that involved a deputy are behind it. According to the lawsuit, Deputy Joseph Harris was chasing after a speeding motorcycle in January. The suit says Deputy Harris did not make sure the intersection was clear before entering, even though he had the green light that night. Officials say Harris lost the motorcycle and crashed into the car. The 2 passengers, not including the driver, are suing Deputy Harris and the county. The driver, however, was placed under arrest for allegedly driving drunk that day.
We did some checking overnight. The armed robbery suspect police claim to have explosives is waking up behind bars this morning. Police say 25-year-old Daniel Ramirez tried to rob the Circle K on Wyoming and Constitution by placing a duffel bag, or bags rather, on the counter and saying there were bombs inside. Also that someone was holding his son hostage until he robbed the store. Police say they found no threat and that Ramirez's son was safe.
On to news happening today. Prosecutors in Colorado expected to file formal charges against the man who they say killed his pregnant wife and 2 daughters. 33-year-old Christopher Watts was arrested last week after he reportedly confessed to the killings. Autopsies on Shannon Watts and her daughters Bella and Celeste were performed Friday. Still, the cause of deaths not released yet. After the charges are filed, court documents could be unsealed, giving more details about the crime.
Federal prosecutors investigating President Trump's former personal lawyer Michael Cohen could be wrapping up. They say they're also in the final stages of their investigation. Authorities are looking into whether Cohen committed bank or tax fraud with his financial and business dealings. CBS News has learned prosecutors could file charges against Cohen by the end of the month. Investigators are also looking into if he violated campaign finance laws by helping to arrange payments to silence women who claimed that they had affairs with the president.
On to news happening right now. Wildfire smoke expected to stick around and become a problem today for the metro. This video is from yesterday. You can see it covering the Sandias there. The smoke is likely from the wildfires burning in California. This morning, firefighters there continue to make steady progress on the fires. The biggest, still the Mendocino complex fires. It's now 76% contained. Several evacuations still ongoing at this time. More than a dozen fires are responsible for destroying thousands of homes there. Kristen.
And I do expect that reduced air quality to be an issue today, but outside of that, no thunderstorms likely. The winds will come down here in the metro, and our temperatures will climb back into the 90s this afternoon. So the Metro Threat Index remains low at a 0, but it will climb by Wednesday. Crystal?
This morning, a New Mexico artist will continue working on his scaled-down version of the Statue of Liberty, inspired by the family separation crisis at the U.S.-Mexico border. Santa Fe sculptor L.C. Shank started the sculpture 2 months ago, inspired by the many migrants and refugees seeking a better life in America. Shank says inside the cracked head of the statue, you can see a child curled up and asleep. He hopes this will raise awareness about immigration issues. He plans to showcase it across the U.S.
Well, some New Mexico high school athletes will soon be able to connect with newly inducted Hall of Famer Brian Urlacher. According to the Carlsbad Curtin-Argus, Urlacher is expected at the Energy Summit in Carlsbad. Now, they report some students will get to learn firsthand from the former Chicago Bears and Louisville linebacker. The 8-time Pro Bowler for the Chicago Bears was enshrined into the Pro Football Hall of Fame earlier this month. Now, the event down in Carlsbad is slated for September 6th.
In just a few weeks, residents in Jemez Springs will be able to quench their thirst in the same building that fire trucks and equipment was once stored in. Owners of Second Alarm Brew House say they're hoping to keep the firehouse name going because of the history of fire chiefs in their family. They're hoping to have their grand opening during the Wildland 52 race at the end of September. Kristen.
Time now for a look at traffic. At this point, we don't have anything major out there when it comes to problems. We are clean and green on I-25 as well as I-40. We also have our tracker out and about this morning. A little bit more of us out there, but no major problems for your commute. Of course, I'll keep eyes on that throughout the morning. For now, we'll send things to David.
Well, the American Society of Travel Agents recently conducted an informal survey of its members to see where and how they're traveling. Number one on the list is river cruising. River cruise company AMA Waterways has seen a dramatic increase in popularity, with sales growing 50% over the past 3 years. Number two on the list is international luxury travel, and number three is traveling with multiple generations to exotic locations.
All right, time now for the 5 facts.
At number 5, looking ahead, some New Mexico high school athletes will soon be able to get in contact with the newly inducted Hall of Famer Brian Urlacher. According to the Carlsbad Curtin-Argus, Urlacher is expected at an energy summit down in Carlsbad on September 6th. The Argus states some students will get to learn firsthand from the former Chicago Bears and Louisville linebacker. The 8-time Pro Bowler for the Bears was enshrined into the Pro Football Hall of Fame earlier this month.
How cool is that? Number 4 now, a New Mexico artist building a scaled-down version of the Statue of Liberty. He says it's inspired by the millions of migrants and refugees seeking a better life in America. He's now asking for your help finishing up his work. Santa Fe sculptor L.C. Shank started the sculpture 2 months ago in response to the family separation crisis at the U.S.-Mexico border. Shank says the goal of his art is to increase awareness about immigration policies. We did post information about the sculpture and details on how you can help out at alwaysonkrqe.com.
At number 3, looking at mostly sunny conditions today with a little bit of the haze and smoke left over from yesterday. 90 degrees this afternoon, but the 80s take over tomorrow. Increasing rain chances for northern, central, and western New Mexico through Wednesday.
At number 2, happening today, the former New Mexico state senator convicted of fraud and bribery is expected to plead guilty in a separate case. Phil Griego is already serving a 1.5 years for bribery and fraud charges for using his Senate seat to push a real estate deal through and pocket $50,000 in cash. Griego is also facing charges of perjury and embezzlement related to campaign finance reports that prosecutors say were falsified. A plea hearing is set for this afternoon in district court. We'll let you know what happens.
On to number 1 now. A man is waking up in the hospital with critical injuries after an officer-involved shooting in northeast Albuquerque yesterday. This morning, police plan to issue a search warrant to get inside the suspect's home and see if there are any other guns. We're waiting for police to release the identity of the suspect and the identities of the officers involved. Here's what we do know, though. Police say they got a call around 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon about the man threatening to kill his neighbors, even banging on the doors at an apartment complex near Central in Dallas. Officers say when they arrived, he disobeyed their commands. That's when he fired off a rifle. They fired back.